He was the most powerful man on earth, commander of 30 legions, Emperor of Rome, the living symbol of an empire that had never, not once, been brought to its knees. And on one afternoon in 260 AD, he was exactly that, on his knees, in chains, in front of a Persian king who had done what no one in the known world had dared to do. Buckle up, because this is the story of Shapur I, the man who broke Rome's myth of invincibility, the man who turned an emperor into a footstool. To understand what happened at Edessa in 260 AD, ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand something first. Rome had never lost this way. For centuries, Rome's eastern frontier had been a festering wound. Not a mortal wound, not a wound that killed, but a wound that would not heal. The Parthian Empire, and later the Sasanian Persian Empire, was the one enemy Rome could not simply absorb, conquer, and forget. Here is what most people don't know. Rome actually tried. Multiple times, emperor after emperor launched massive eastern campaigns, burning with the dream of adding Persia to the empire. Trajan marched deep into Mesopotamia. Septimius Severus sacked the Parthian capital of Ctesiphon. Marcus Aurelius fought the Parthians to a near standstill. But Persia always came back, because Persia was not a collection of fractured tribes. Persia was a civilization, a rival. The only civilization in the ancient world that looked Rome in the eye and refused to blink. And in 224 AD, something changed, something that would make everything worse for Rome. The old Parthians fell, replaced by the Sasanian Persians, a new dynasty, a new fire, and a new king who would change the course of history. His name was Ardashir I, and his son would be the man who humiliated Rome forever. Shapur I was not born into a world that needed him to be careful. He was born to conquer. When he came to power around 240 AD, Shapur inherited an empire already at war with Rome. But where his father had consolidated, Shapur wanted expansion. Where Rome pushed east, Shapur would push back, harder and smarter. Because this is what ambition looks like when it has a strategy behind it. Shapur reorganized the Persian cavalry into heavy armored units, cataphracts, mounted warriors encased in metal riding armored horses, a nightmare for Roman legions built for close formation fighting on flat ground. He deployed war elephants. He built siege expertise. He studied Roman tactics and found the gaps in their armor. And here is the brutal truth. Rome walked directly into every trap he laid. In 243 AD, Roman Emperor Gordian III launched a massive eastern campaign. He pushed deep into Mesopotamia. He was winning. Then he died. His successor, Philip the Arab, sued for peace and paid Shapur a ransom so enormous the numbers are still debated by scholars today. But Shapur didn't want money. He wanted something far more valuable. He wanted proof. Undeniable, eternal proof that Rome could be broken. And Rome was about to give him exactly that. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the context that made what happened next possible. Rome in the 200s and 50s AD was not the Rome of Augustus, not the Rome of Trajan. This was a Rome in crisis. In the space of 50 years, the empire had cycled through 26 emperors, civil wars, plague, economic collapse. The legions, once the most disciplined fighting force in human history, were being torn apart by internal politics, fighting each other as much as they fought Rome's enemies. Let that sink in for a moment. 26 emperors, 50 years. Every time a strong man emerged, every time Rome stabilized, another general with ambitions and a loyal army pushed him off the throne. The empire was devouring itself. And it was into this chaos that Emperor Valerian stepped in 253 AD. Valerian was not a fool. He recognized the Persian threat for what it was. He marched east with a massive Roman army, tens of thousands of soldiers, to push Shapur back once and for all. And you know very damn well what comes next. But before we get to the moment of capture, because that moment deserves its own space, its own weight, let us talk about what Valerian was actually walking into. Because the road to Edessa was not a sudden ambush. It was a slow collapse, a grinding, agonizing unraveling of everything Rome believed about itself. Valerian's campaign began with genuine momentum. The Roman army was enormous, disciplined, experienced, and Shapur, watching from a distance, understood something critical. You do not fight Rome when Rome is ready. You wait. You maneuver. You choose your battlefield. You choose your moment. So Shapur chose his. He struck the Roman province of Syria first, hard and fast. He sacked Antioch, one of the largest and most important cities in the Roman East, a city of 500,000 people, a city that Rome considered untouchable. Antioch burned, and Valerian, stung, furious, marching hard, did exactly what Shapur needed him to do. He chased. By 259 AD, Valerian's army was deep in Mesopotamia, in territory far from Roman supply lines, in terrain that favored Persian cavalry over Roman infantry. The army was already weakened. A plague, some historians believe it was smallpox, had torn through the legions with a brutality that no Persian blade could match. Soldiers were dying not from wounds, but from fever, from weakness, from a body that simply gave up. And then came Edessa. By 260 AD, Valerian's campaign had been ground to dust. Plague had swept through his army. Previous engagements had bled his force to the bone. The soldiers who remained were exhausted, undersupplied, and desperate. And they were cornered near the ancient city of Edessa, in what is now southeastern Turkey. Shapur had maneuvered brilliantly. He hadn't simply attacked head-on. He had cut off Roman supply lines, bottled Valerian's forces between the city and the Persian army, sealed every exit. And then he waited. The Romans were starving. They were dying. And Valerian made the one decision a Roman emperor should never make. He asked to negotiate. 2 words. That is all. 2 words that contained an entire philosophy of defeat. Whether Valerian genuinely surrendered or was lured to the negotiating table under false pretenses, historians still argue this today. Either way, the result was the same. The Emperor of Rome, commander of its legions, master of the Mediterranean, taken prisoner. Now, stop here for a moment, because this is the part that history books rush past, and it should not be rushed past, not even slightly. In the entire history of the Roman Empire, 700 years of wars, defeats, disasters, and catastrophes, no Roman emperor had ever been captured alive by an enemy. Not once. Generals had died on the battlefield. Emperors had been assassinated by their own guards. Rome had suffered catastrophic defeats, the ambush at the Teutoburg Forest,
the slaughter at Cannae, the disaster at Adrianople. Rome had bled and burned and come back every single time. But no emperor had ever been taken prisoner. It simply had not happened. It was not part of the Roman universe of possibilities. Roman emperors died in battle. They died of illness. They died by the blade of a usurper. They did not kneel before foreign kings. Until 260 AD. Until Edessa. Until Valerian. And here is what makes this moment even more devastating. He did not die in battle. That, at least, would have been a Roman death, a death with dignity, a death the empire could have mourned and moved on from. No. Valerian survived the battle. He was taken alive, breathing, uninjured. The Emperor of Rome, standing, breathing, alive, in Persian hands. That is not a tragedy. That is a humiliation. And Shapur I knew exactly what to do with it. Stay with me, because what Shapur actually did with Valerian is even more extraordinary than the capture itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here is where history becomes something more than strategy and warfare. Here is where it becomes a statement. Shapur I was not a warlord. He was a king of kings, a man who understood power not just as military force, but as theater, as symbol, as message. And the message he sent with Valerian was unmistakable. He did not execute the Roman emperor. That would have been too simple, too fast, too easily forgotten. A dead emperor is yesterday's news. A living emperor in chains. That is eternal. So Valerian lived, and he suffered. He was dressed not in imperial purple, but in the simple garments of a captive. His hands were bound. His rank, the highest rank in the known Western world, meant nothing on Persian soil. And then Shapur put him on display. Valerian was paraded through Persian cities, Ctesiphon, Bishapur, Persepolis, marched in chains before Persian citizens who lined the streets to watch. The Emperor of Rome, shuffling in chains, so that every Persian man, woman, and child could see with their own eyes that Rome was not invincible, that the god emperor across the western horizon was just a man, a tired, defeated, chained man. This was not cruelty for its own sake. This was policy. This was Shapur telling his own people, and through them the entire ancient world, that the Sasanian Persian Empire was not merely a rival to Rome. It was Rome's superior. Here is what most people don't know.
Ancient rock carvings survive to this day. Carved into the cliffs at Naqsh-e Rostam, the same sacred site where Persian kings are buried, depicting Shapur on horseback, with Valerian kneeling before him in the dust. Some scholars believe Shapur used Valerian as a literal mounting block, that when the King of Kings needed to climb onto his horse in public, a Roman emperor was placed on the ground beneath his boot. Let that sink in for a moment. The purple-robed master of the Mediterranean used as a stepping stone. And Rome, the empire, the Senate, the legions could do nothing, absolutely nothing. Valerian's son, Gallienus, was co-emperor. He was alive. He was capable. He chose not to attempt a rescue, not because he did not care, but because Rome was too fractured, too broken, too consumed by its own internal wars to mount a credible expedition into the Persian heartland. Rome could not save its own emperor. Valerian died in Persian captivity. No one is certain when, no one is certain how. The ancient sources disagree on the details. Some say he died quickly, some say he lived for years, a breathing monument to Roman defeat. trotted out at Persian state occasions as living proof of Shapur's greatest triumph. Either way, he never came home. No ransom was paid. No prisoner exchange was arranged. No Roman army marched east to free him. The Emperor of Rome simply disappeared into Persia and stayed there. What Shapur I achieved at Edessa in 260 AD was not just a military victory. It was a rupture. Rome's greatest psychological weapon had always been its myth of inevitability, the idea, believed by Romans and their enemies alike, that Rome always won in the end, that no matter how hard you pushed, the legions would come back, the empire would absorb the blow, and it would endure. Shapur broke that myth permanently. Because this is what it looks like when an empire's illusion of invincibility dies. Not with burning cities, not with a catastrophic battlefield defeat, but with a single image, an emperor on his knees, his purple robes in the dust, while a Persian king rides past without looking down. Think about what that image did to Rome's enemies. Every king, every chieftain, every general on Rome's borders who had ever hesitated, who had ever looked at the legions and thought, maybe not, now had proof. Proof that Rome could be beaten. Proof that Roman emperors bled and broke and surrendered like any other man. The barbarian incursions that followed in the next 50 years were not a coincidence. The increasing boldness of the Germanic tribes on the Rhine and the Danube, not a coincidence. When Rome's armor cracks, everyone notices. And inside the empire, the damage was just as severe. How do you explain to Roman citizens that their emperor, the man who was supposed to be descended from the gods, the man whose face was on every coin, whose name was spoken in prayers, is currently being used as a footstool in a Persian palace? You cannot explain it. You can only endure it. Rome would survive for another 2 centuries. The legions would fight on. But something had shifted deep in the bones of the empire. Rome knew it could be humiliated, that its emperors were not gods, that the East was a wound that would never fully close. And Shapur I knew it too. He had it carved into stone at Naqsh-e Rostam. That image of Valerian kneeling cuts so deep into the rock face that it has survived nearly 1,800 years. He wanted the world to remember. Ladies and gentlemen, it did. Because this story was written down, preserved, told again and again through the centuries, a story of ambition, strategy, and the moment the most powerful empire in the world learned that power is never permanent. Shapur I did not just capture an emperor, he captured Rome's belief in itself. He took something that could not be returned, not by an army, not by a treaty, not by any amount of Roman pride or Roman engineering or Roman law. He took the certainty that Rome would always win, and he carved its absence into stone at Naqsh-e Rostam, so that 1,000 years after Shapur himself was dust, the world would still be able to look up at that cliff face and see a Roman emperor kneeling. That is legacy. That is power. That is what Shapur I did in 260 AD. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to Historical Facts channel. The next story is already coming, and trust me, you're going to want to be here for it.